Illyria was the name the Greeks called the region to the west of them. It was made of various tribes and not actually a united kingdom. Unity first came when the Romans conquered the region and named it Illyricum. However, the peoples were so unruly that Rome designated it an imperial province, that is, a province that has soldiers stationed in it, when it was originally a senatorial province. Eventually, Illyricum was broken up into two provinces, Pannonia and Dalmatia, with the majority of land going into the new province of Dalmatia. Several emperors were from Dalmatia, most notably Constantine the Great. Rome eventually split up into the Eastern and Western Roman empires, and Dalmatia, which had changed shape several times before this period, went to the Western Empire. Dalmatians adopted Roman culture in the cities, but those living in the countryside were less Romanized. There was even a brief period of independence before returning to Italy's control. Eventually, the Eastern Roman Empire sent the Ostrogoths to conquer Italy, and they succeeded. Thus, Dalmatia became part of the Ostrogothic Empire. Eventually, the Eastern Roman Byzantine Empire took over Dalmatia, but this was meaningless as the Avars, and most of all the Slavs, migrated to the region and destroyed the cities outside the coastlands. The Slavs, being large in number, eventually absorbed all the peoples of the region, and everyone there was now a Slav. After this time, the regions of Bosnia, Croatia, and Serbia would develop. During this time, the land was fought over by Western Europe and Eastern Europe. At times, the region would be religiously independent, following neither the Catholic nor Orthodox rulers, and other times it would be in submission. Bogomils, for example, were protected from assimilation into either Catholicism or Orthodoxy due to being surrounded by mountains. The Bosnian Church, furthermore, had sermons in the native tongue, instead of Greek or Latin, the first church to do so. This period was marked by inner and outer turmoil. Eventually all the region, except for Slovenia, and occasionally some parts of Croatia, came under Ottoman rule. Conversions to Islam were only common in Bosnia, since its church was already persecuted by other Christian denominations. However, this was a combination of Christianity and Islam for a long time, and others converted for financial or political gain. Bitterness was also fueled by the occasional kidnapping of Christian boys to be raised as Muslim soldiers for the Sultan. The Grand Vizier, who was in charge of the whole government and under the Sultan, was often Balkan-born. In the 1800s, revolts in the Balkans began against the Ottomans, and Serbia managed to gain autonomy, as well as Montenegro. It was at this time that the Serbs began wanting a unified South Slavic state. However, Croatia and Slovenia belonged to Austria-Hungary, while Bosnia and Macedonia belonged to the Ottoman Empire. Things changed after the Russo-Turkish War, as Austria-Hungary gained control of Bosnia as well, even if it still technically belonged to the Ottomans. To counter Serbian claims to Bosnia, Austria-Hungary pushed for a Bosniak identity among the peoples of Bosnia. Croatia, too, had its eyes set on Bosnia. Further change came when Greece, Serbia, Montenegro, and Bulgaria attacked the Ottomans. They were victorious and split up Macedonia into two parts, with the northern half going to the Serbian Empire. Finally, Austria-Hungary made Bosnia an official part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. This would end up starting World War I, and as a result, Austria-Hungary was dissolved, resulting in most of its former territories, with the exception of a small part of Slovenia, combining with Serbia and Montenegro into the Kingdom of Croats, Slovenes, and Serbs. Yugoslavia was initially suggested as a name, but the Serbs rejected it, considering it as an attempt to erase the Serbian name, while the Croats were not against it. The name Yugoslavia finally came into being years later, after the king changed the country's name. The kingdom was ruled by a Serbian dynasty. However, Croatians considered all South Slavs to be Croats, and upon gaining power in World War II, they began a campaign of converting, expelling, or killing Serbs, in one-thirds each. The Serbs likewise considered all South Slavs as Serbs, and began a resistance movement, focused on eliminating Bosniak and Croat identity. However, the West ultimately supported the Communist Front in Yugoslavia, and gave up support for the Serbs, which after the war resulted in a new Yugoslavia that was ruled by the communist Tito. Like the king before him, Tito tried to create a unified Yugoslavia, but much of the government was Serbian. Kosovo and Croatia had desires for autonomy, but any support for them would anger Serbia. Montenegrin and Macedonian became official identities at this time too. Communism was exchanged for market-based socialism, and Yugoslavia was always slowly moving towards capitalism. Yugoslavia broke up again after numerous countries declared independence. Serbia and Croatia once again tried to create Greater Croatia and Greater Serbia. Macedonia and Slovenia separated peacefully, but Bosnia and Croatia could not. Ultimately, Bosnia would end in a truce, with one half being Serbia and the other half being mostly Bosniak, but also Croat. The economies of all states were garbage, due to industry partly being a front for communist propaganda and not actually productive. Only Serbia pursued a path of economic independence, while the other states sought incorporation into the European Union. Montenegro eventually seceded from Serbia, while Kosovo is still in an uncertain state. Further unity of Yugoslavia could be recognized through mutual EU ascension, perhaps without the inclusion of Serbia, through a unification of Serbia and North Macedonia, through a unification of Serbia and the Serbian Republic of Bosnia, or through an intellectual union. However, in all 2,500 years, unity has never once been truly achieved.